before, Nova can be an inconsistent squad. I feel like Lone Delphi is the most consistent out of this team. He's kind of the pillar, the cornerstone for this team that is always at least on average level. Blackfeather going to be the first to pick up here. It's going to be countered with a Kestrel.
Rhyme ban coming through from Nova to not give it over to Status. And then a Catherine had to badge it. But the Blackfeather is the thing that I want to talk about because it can both be played in lane, it can be played in the jungle.
I wonder if Hammers were watching that last series. The first pick Blackfeather, well, this is not happening. We are taking this Churnwalker away.
I like the ban. I mean, Nova is an innovative team, and I don't think they would have shied away from picking that Churnwalker.
Absolutely not. Arden going to be locked in. That's something we've seen a lot today. With Churnwalker, Catherine, and Lyra taken off the table. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Lance as the captain for Nova. But we've seen a little bit of Finn mixed in there as well. We've seen a little bit of Grace. Yeah. So a few options for them. A little bit of Flicker. And also, you've got, yeah, we have seen them specifically play Flicker. You have that Blackfeather as well, though. So I would like to see the Grace. That's definitely a strong pick for them.
Either the Grace or the Lance, I think both are very strong picks for them. Eco is very talented with a large selection of heroes. It is going to be the Lance that they do lock in for themselves, so it's very likely that's going to be the captain, with the Blackfeather still could be flexed either way.
I wouldn't be surprised if Reza came through here just because it's going to be taking it away also from Status. The only thing, if that does happen, Hammers have a Cruel to last pick against it, and that's a great matchup for them. But still, they would be able to dive very efficiently with the Blackfeather and with the Lance and try to eliminate Kestrel.
Absolutely, we'll see if they can get onto Kestrel. That's always a bit of a dance in the lane when you see Lancers coming up to try and gank onto a Kestrel, whether or not they can stealth and sidestep that route, because the route is almost always death, but the sidestep is almost always a successful counter-engage. Alpha going to be the lock-in here for Nova. Very aggressive composition.
Yeah, Alpha really starting to make a large presence, especially here in North America. The Crystal Alpha route, it was Weapon Alpha last split that we saw a little bit, started to think maybe this is a pick that could start to make waves, but now with the Crystal route, because of the Aftershock being so strong, we're starting to see this more and more.
This would be another case where Sky CP would actually be amazing, both against CP Alpha, against the Lance, and against the Blackfeather if he manages to scale a little bit, and CP Alpha takes a little bit to ramp up so she can't pressure too much. Sky would be amazing here. Status played it a lot a long time ago when he used to play back on Gangstars, when he used to play on Phoenix 2 years ago, but instead they don't choose to go for that, they go for the Samuel.
Got that Samuel Kestrel combo, though. Definitely a combo that we've seen a lot over the years in Vainglory. It's a very good combo for setting up a siege, setting up a disengage, kind of kiting back during these fights. How are we expecting this early game to go then? Because we've seen Alpha be very successful across the course of today. We did see it lose as well, though. How's that going to match against the Samuel?
Early on, this should still be slightly in favor of Samuel, just because Alpha, while you can dodge the Malice and Verdicts with the Prime Directive, you are still a sitting duck for a little bit while you're using that ability, and if that level 2 spike for the Samuel comes through, they're on a good rotation. That's going to be the key, is when they make the rotation into the enemy jungle, if it's just as level 2 comes out, they can cause some serious damage.
This is definitely going to be a traditional case of one composition being stronger early game by sieging on the side of Hollywood Hammers, going to the lane with the Kestrel and with the Samuel, trying to get turrets, snowball a little bit, get a lead. On the side of Nova, however, if they scale without falling behind, the Blackfeather and the Alpha will definitely take over the matchup, and especially because they're tankier and Kestrel and Samuel are really squishy.
All right, we'll see how this early game is going to play out. I'm excited to see how this semi-final in general plays out. Let us know who you want to take this one using hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. But without further ado, it's time to go into the Hollywood Hammers going up against Nova Esports. It's time for me to pass it back over to Dowsy and the Source.
Thank you, it's I, Dowsy, and of course the Source to bring home this Hollywood Hammers versus Nova matchup, or as I have titled it, Source, the Weapon Power Kestrel Wars. It's truth versus starting, and I very much hope that we get to see both of these carries pick up Weapon Power Kestrel during this series.
Would be a good display of two players on the same character. We can't have 1v1, so this is about the best that we could possibly get. But a heavy dive composition coming out from the side of Nova, bit more of a siege and poke composition coming out from Hollywood Hammers. So we get to see who's going to survive, who picked the better strategy under the circumstances. And both teams kind of positioning towards this middle half. They don't have Status with them, so it might just be the Elder Treant going over to Nova.
Starting moment may attempt to steal. Not quite able to find it though. Weapon Power Kestrel not really able to get too much splash damage with the Glimmer shots, so it will be that Elder Treant heading on over to the Nova squad for now, as Starting All Over going to share some of the experience from the backs here. Status has already taken the Treant at the back, but will share the experience from these doubles so that Starting All Over can get close to level 2 as he heads back up into the lane.
Yeah, and they sent Eco back to pick up a minion candy. Truth also has a minion candy, so they're ready for, you know, what is likely to be some aggressive lane pushing coming up from Starting All Over on the Weapon Power Kestrel. This is again a full melee composition from Nova. We saw what those could do last game, or last series, really. So, you know, you don't always need that range character, but there's a lot of siege from Hollywood Hammers. If they actually set that up, we can see turrets starting to fall very quickly.
It's going to be very interesting to see how Hollywood Hammers do play around this Alpha and Black Feather. They've got a double ranged threat in the Samuel and the Kestrel, and currently Status is attempting this Elder Treant. Drifting Dark, Mouse and Verdict able to secure that Treant for Status, but now Lone Delphi's putting down the pressure. Great Impale! Status now has to run. Lone Delphi doesn't want to continue up the fight. Already used that healing flask, and Status was so healthy, so it looks like Hollywood Hammer's going to get away with it. And oh dear, in the lane, it's First Blood to Starting All Over.
That is the danger of massive burst coming out from Starting All Over. I was a little surprised that Truth would be willing to step up that far to take that kind of fight. But Starting All Over, he's playing on a razor's edge with that health bar, just kind of trying to bait people in and be like, no, I'm at low health, you can fight me, it's fine.
Saw yesterday from Starting All Over using the charm before he killed the crew. It was just so impressive how he was able to kind of play with Hyde like that and just add a bit of flair to his gameplay. Starting All Over, very mechanically gifted, almost annoyingly mechanically gifted, this young kid. Currently Hammers in a good position as they have that First Blood. Now they can look to really get Status into a position where this Samuel can get online early and start to challenge the damage output of the Alpha.
Yeah, and you would think with how much damage you could do early with just the crowd control of a good Impale Guillotine wall combo, you would think that Nova would be willing to step into the jungle and put some pressure on the Status, but they haven't been able to do that. He's getting very clear, clean farm, should be able to get towards his either his Eve of Harvest first or his Frostburn, either one, you know, within good time, especially if they can put in way more pressure. It's a lot of damage on Eco.
Yeah, Status looking for Eco onto the damage. Damage onto Truth as well. Has the healing flask ready to go, holds onto it. Lone Delphi going to come up into the lane, help out with the wave clear under this turret. Starting All Over has his healing flask coming up in just 20 seconds. Extra energy, and oh wow, Truth almost finds himself sniped. Here's that Drifting Dark. Eco in trouble. It's another kill going over to Status here for Hollywood Hammers. Now Lone Delphi trying to dive on in, but he misses the Prime Directive, and the damage train from Hollywood Hammers just continues. Starting All Over, able to output so much with those Glimmer shots with just a single heavy still.
I mean, we're talking about how mechanical Starting All Over is with, you know, Glimmer shots and just stutter stepping and all of those mechanicals. Status is threading the needle with all of these Mouse and Verdicts and just putting down so much damage. Now they've taken the early turret. They've got about a 1k gold lead. It's pretty close, 1300. So for the moment, they're actually setting up kind of that siege pressure, and Nova look a little lost. They do still have the potential to kind of dive, find a team fight, but if the items start to come in for the side of Hollywood Hammers, Nova may never get the opportunity.
Currently, Nova haven't been able to find a team fight that they want. Realistically, at this point, they're waiting for Lone Delphi to get that Aftershock, waiting for Truth to get his breaking point so he can stack up damage. They can dive onto Starting All Over, then the damage output from Hammers drops significantly. We haven't found out what Status wants to build yet. Has 2,000 gold in his inventory. It's going to be a Dragon's Eye first item for the young Samuel here. That's very intriguing. Dragon's Eye, obviously the replacement to a stacking item on the Crystal Power tree. Very punishing if you can't maintain a team fight, but Samuel can really get those stacks going with the low cooldown on Malice and Verdict.
Well, also consider how well he's done just landing all of those skill shots. It's kind of a I have faith in myself build. I believe I'm going to land all of these abilities so I can maximize that damage, but here's the engage.
Here's an Oblivion putting 2 to sleep, and Lone Delphi trying to get onto Stunning all over. Truth's there as well. That's a huge Giffian wall coming out of Eco, and that secures the kill for Lone Delphi. Impressive stuff from Eco. Hammers not able to win a team fight. It looks like Nova have found what they needed. They've blown up Starting all over. Now it's all on Status to keep Hollywood Hammers in a position they can play in. One shot does come through, lands onto Delphi, but an impale onto Status. Giffian wall. Good night, Samuel. That's a kill going over to Truth. 2 on the board, matching that of Hammers.
2 engagements in a row. Eco comes up big. That Giffian wall split up the team very well. He's landing all of these impales just on the the edge of the skill shot, pretty much figuring out exactly where people are going to be with the end of that ability, and that's set up Nova to kind of reset the pace of the game. They are still down a little bit of gold. They still don't have that initial turret, so there's still space for Hollywood Hammers to spread out along the map to continue to dictate pace of game, but Nova have shown they still got fight in them.
Currently, Hollywood Hammers trying to push the limits of the map without venturing too deep. Eco has set up a trap line, so he has a bit of vision, but it's starting to be cleared away by Hammers. Hammers can clear that vision away, then Starting all over can start creeping into some positions. Look to try and set up into the right area so that he can look for team fights. That Oblivion coming back up for Status now. And there's a gauntlet ready for Chicken as well. This could be very devastating if the stars align for the Hollywood Hammers. Pushing in the wave here at the source. They're likely to look for a team fight. That's an infusion popped by Status. Oh my goodness, the damage onto Truth. Starting all over rooted, but it doesn't even matter. Oblivion goes out, it misses entirely. But Eco's almost dead. Gonna be one shot onto Truth. The fountain and the healing flask popped. Keep everyone alive here. And the siege hasn't even started from Hammers. That turret is still ready to go, but Starting all over rooted. Oh, Prime Directive! Nova find the engage of Dreams, and now Status is in trouble as Lone Delphi tries to chase on. Gauntlet to disengage the fight via Chicken. Lone Delphi will continue with a Prime Directive. Impale misses, but Lone Delphi's got it. Impressive Impale play so far in the alpha. And just when you think that Hollywood Hammers siege has set up to, find themselves an objective, Nova finds engage after engage, another onto Chicken. Chicken, they're likely to just fall to Truth's Black Feather. In fact, it's Delphi to find his 4th kill of the game. It will be Truth dropping to Starting.
Great team fighting coming out from Nova. When Hollywood Hammers didn't get that initial kill onto, it would have either been Truth or Eco. They needed that kill to set up that siege. The Crystal Infusion was popped. You get that kill and you have a Crystal Infusion, the amount of poke and damage that they put out, you're easily going to take that additional turret. The fact that they don't get that, they then kind of start to lull in what their damage can do. Once the Drifting Dark is on cooldown, there's a lull in the damage, opportunity for the side of Nova to fight back. They are evening up the gold, so definitely abusing Hollywood Hammer's mistakes, but they still haven't taken this initial turret. And I think until they do that, there's always the potential for Nova to just kind of get squeezed out of the game and just be pressured too much when it comes to these sieges.
Currently, Hollywood Hammers continuing to pressure Nova, but like you've mentioned, Nova very happy to take these team fights. Now Giffian's wall, Starting all over is in a lot of trouble. Flare revealing him, trying to lay down the damage. Eco taking a lot of it. Lone Delphi charging on forward, uses his Termination Protocol and gets popped in it. He's going to go down? No, he reboots just in time. Maybe Nova can look to re-engage this fight. Status though, a lot of stacks built up, looking for more. Eco will be sacrificial lamb for Nova. And Status not ready to give up yet. One shot onto Truth. That's Malice and Verdict's finding a double for Status. Now it's Lone Delphi trying his best to run. It's going to be Status chasing on down, unfortunately dropping his Dragon's Eye stacks. Maybe they can find the kill onto the Alpha nonetheless while Starting takes down the turret. Status doing his best, Chicken going low, pops the fountain to keep himself alive. It won't be an ace for Hammers. In fact, they're struggling. Status may have just bit off more than he can chew. As Lone Delphi going to re-engage with a Prime Directive. Turret goes down. Lone Delphi close to getting his passive back. Re-engages with the reflex block, but Status able to take him down. Starting all over, trapped in Eco's wrath as the team fight continues across the fold. Looks like Chicken might be able to get the Vanguard to keep him alive. No, Impale comes through. Truth, where's your on point? In fact, he doesn't need it. Rose Offensive gets the kill. Status to move on in to try and keep this turret alive.
That was an incredibly long engagement. That first actual team fight, we saw that everything was dictated, at least Hollywood Hammer's aggression is dictated by when the Drifting Dark is up. Drifting Dark is used at the start, they get that initial damage in, we see the team fight go through, Lone Delphi gets brought down, and then Hollywood Hammers are ready to re-engage the moment the Drifting Dark is back up. We also saw kind of the problem in a little bit of Status's build. That Dragon's Eye is great, but we watched him miss 5, 6, 7 skill shots, and the damage just started to fall apart, and Lone Delphi was, able to at least keep them alive for a reasonably long amount of time. Status has also picked up another Crystal Infusion, so it's really all inning on this early to mid game just power and pressure. They managed to get the turret, they sent Starling all over off to go deal with that on his own. He ended up dying for it, but still, the map controls in favor of Hollywood Hammers.
Is a gold mine being contested here by Delphi? He manages to steal it. Okie dokie, Lone Delphi, we're watching out, and that's a turret going down. Nova just out-rotating their opponents, outplaying them on all fronts to keep themselves alive. This is a great series to spectate. Truth in a bit of trouble, trying to dance around Hollywood Hammers. Gauntlet is ready. Status able to get that Crucible. Here comes Lone Delphi into the middle of the fight, onto Status. Oh, wow, gets deleted with that Termination Protocol. The body blocking from Eco keeps him alive. It's starting all over, finding 1 kill here. Truth is able to execute him. Had to hold my breath for a second there as Nova with a 2-for-1, a turret and a gold miner to get it all.
Eco, the hero that Nova needed. That body block saves them, the additional death onto Lone Delphi, basically wins them the team fight, and now is going to result in them getting an additional objective. So, talked about how Nova hadn't really been able to pressure out onto the map. It takes them 1 team fight and only about 30 seconds to turn things around and even up where the map control is, taking those 2 turrets down, gaining a little bit of a gold advantage, and now we see maybe Status might not be able to dish out enough damage. He still doesn't have the Frostburn, so no guaranteed way to get that slow in, but here's the engage on Lone Delphi.
Yeah, it is just Nova attempting to get onto Status here. Impale blocked up by a Crucible from Chicken. Starting Nova's in the fight, but Status is almost out of it. Lone Delphi to blow him up. In fact, it manages to get it with just an auto attack. Truth will go down. Eco has to roll away, and Lone Delphi is running for the hills. Eco to go over the wall, Chicken to slow him down with a Vanguard, and that's the double kill coming out for Starting All Over now. It's all Lone Delphi left alive for Nova. Hollywood Hammers wanting to find that ace for themselves. 7 seconds left on Truth's death timer, but Lone Delphi just too tanky at this point with that metal jacket. Hollywood Hammers to find 2.
Yeah, Nova look for what was a pretty decent pick-off and just kind of get a little too deep in enemy territory. Lone Delphi now going to re-engage, starting over, taking massive damage, doesn't have a lot of mana.
What a bloody series this has been so far, and Starting All Over will get popped by Lone Delphi. It's going to be Chicken going down as well, as Truth and Lone Delphi just double team him around the gold miner. It's a double kill for Lone Delphi, and now the gold miner to be taken as well. 20 kills in just 13 minutes. It's insane, Source.
I definitely think that this pace of game and just how back and forth the fighting is definitely favors Nova. Because when you're playing more of these melee heroes, although yes, Truth does have a little bit of skill shot to land, same with Lone Delphi and same with Eco, it is also easier for them to kind of guarantee a lot of that engagement, where Status is all about that poke, all about the siege, has to land those skill shots. They're doing a very good job on the side of Nova of just hard engaging onto a given target. Starting All Over is getting towards that scary point where his damage is going to be in there. He has picked up some armor pierce, so maybe that ends up being... do you think he goes Bonesaw for the additional attack speed, or... actually, I'm not sure. Tension Bow or Bonesaw? I'm a little torn. I like both.
We're talking about Starting All Over here. You would assume it would be a Tension Bow to finish the build off, just for the extra burst. However, previous updates, it was always a Bone Saw to come through, because the Glimmer Shots provide shredding to everyone who gets hit by a Glimmer Shot, so you can basically remove everyone's armor very quickly. So it depends on if Starting All Over feels like he's Druid on this CP weapon powered Kestrel, because that will basically define whether or not he builds that Bone Saw.
Right, well, Nova, they are starting to look for a little bit more of a team fight. They've got Lone Delphi pretty tanky at this point. Goes for a 3rd damage item, maybe that's a Shattered Glass, just to add to the burst, and engages in on the Status.
Yeah, starting all over, in trouble, impaled on up. Chicken with the Vanguard to get him away. Lone Delphi trying to escape the Prime Directive, straight on into the middle of the fight. Looking for starting all over. He's going to start up that Termination Protocol, jumps onto Status. We're going to pop it before he can get any more damage down. Hammer's able to just about escape the torment from Nova. At this 15.5-minute mark, that could have been devastating if they were to lose starting all over. It would have been a Kraken for sure.
Nova starting to set up in the jungle a little bit. They don't have a massive amount of vision. There's a couple of scout traps being picked up, or at least flares picked up for Chicken, and that's going to be a good route on the Status. He might be in trouble.
Yeah, Sentry goes down. Lucas starting all over, trying to escape. Gauntlet, perfectly placed to stop them from getting onto starting all over, but now they just turn onto Status and he is dead. Starting up against the wall, Lone Delphi finds the Prime Directive, and it's only Chicken left alive. Currently just Truth and Lone Delphi able to do it all. Prime Directive will stop the backport. Chicken is dead Reno, as Truth will find that ace for the side of Nova. Now a Kraken will be taken.
So right as that team fight started, I was a little scared for Nova. They get the initial engage, but a Githian wall actually pushed everybody to the side, and Lone Delphi missed the Prime Directive. So that like instant combo, I thought they might have bitten off a little bit more than they could chew, but you know, very, very quickly Truth gets into the back line, starts putting pressure on starting all over, and he says, I am the one true Kestrel, and I'm going to take this character away from you. You're just not going to be allowed to do what you want, and this could be bad for starting all over.
He is going to get engaged upon. Oblivion goes out, starting all over. Good night, my dear friend. Lone Delphi, never mind, can't find the kill. Starting all over is a god. I take it all back. He is going to head back to the healing platform. He is going to start healing on up. Infusion will be ready to go. One shot goes out, but it doesn't connect with anyone. Kraken has hit the choke point turret as we speak. And Impale lands onto Chicken. It's Nova clearing out this turret like it means nothing, like it's made of paper. Lone Delphi trying his best to find engage, but a great glimmer shot set up onto the active camo stuns the entirety of Nova. They're diving deep. They want these turrets. Double root comes through from Eco into a double Githian wall. Gauntlet gets placed. Lone Delphi dives into the Gauntlet with his reflex block. And now it is going to be starting over, doing his best to try and take down Truth. Finds the kill. It's Lone Delphi next. He has to try and find the kill into starting all over. If he doesn't, he will lose his life. And he is going to reboot just in time. Debated, goes onto the Vein Crystal. This should be the Kraken just dropping in time for Hollywood Hammers to keep their base alive. Nova taking everything but the crystal itself. What an exciting game we have here.
A little bit too much damage on starting all over for them to be able to get away with that one. They were able to bring Lone Delphi and Truth down. Interesting build decision coming up from Eco has gone into double armor, so just wants to be able to survive through starting all over. I think that's how much respect he's got, and that's going to be a bone saw to shred through all of that armor. So, I think that for the moment, Nova still look very, very good. They have to be worried about, these extended engagements. They really need to make sure that Truth is getting deep into the back line. And Status now has the broken myth, so damage will get through. I don't really see a lot of ways for the side of Nova to avoid that damage other than sidestepping it. So they just kind of need to engage into the back line before Status can really set up his poke.
The other way to avoid the damage is you kill Status, and then you no longer have to worry about that damage.
That is true.
It's been fairly effective for Nova so far. They will likely employ the same tactic. We're starting to hit these late game builds here at this 19-minute mark. One shot flies out, but doesn't connect with anyone. Nova, very wary that if they were to lose a team fight to Hollywood Hammers right now, then with the amount of damage this Kestrel does, turrets would drop very quickly. Hammers wouldn't miss an opportunity to take everything that they could possibly take in their short period of time. Nova are pushing on in. Prime Directive onto starting all over, knocked up against the wall, stunned. Gets himself into the Gauntlet walls and he's trapping everyone up, but Truth has the kill nonetheless. Look at Status around the team fight, staying in the Drifting Dark, trying to lay down the damage, but it's Chicken, the one being focused, and double kill for Truth. They're just going to ignore Status. Eco, you deal with him. Lone Delphi's going to go to the Vein Crystal, and Truth going to come in. He wants a triple kill. He wants them stats for his VG Pro. It's going to be Status cutting back relatively well, but it doesn't really matter because Lone Delphi's taking the Vein Crystal, and there it is. The ace comes through, the triple kill for Truth, and Nova in very dominant fashion, will take game 1 of the series.
Despite a double sleep on the 2 targets, getting Eco and Londelphi, Truth is doing an incredible job of showing us why this Black Feather is so dangerous. And it might need to become a possible ban or even more of a priority pick because of how much pressure we have seen this weapon power Black Feather put onto these backline carries.
It is insane. You go into solo queue and Black Feather is perma-banned, but here in the Vainglory8, these pro teams are ready to test it out. And currently so far today in North America, it has won every game. What an impressive start to the series by Nova. And now we throw it back to the one and only Churnwalker to break down that series.
Thank you very much, Idris. Yes, we are here on the desk and we're ready to get on into that one. It was a Nova victory to start off this series. Hammers not managing to match up. In terms of kills, though, this was a very close game. The scoreline pretty even towards the end, but in terms of actual objectives, in terms of turning this into something more, it was the way of Nova.
Yeah, I mean, this was an incredible game in terms of the team fighting back and forth constantly up until, like, I think it was only about 3 fights in the row that Nova was able to, like, sort of dominantly take. But up until that point, it was always like 1 kill, 1 or 2 people getting picked off and getting traded back and forth. Both of these teams were playing exceptionally well.
It really was back and forth. And props to Nova for being able, or Hollywood Hammers for being able to get ahead early on with their composition by sieging. The only problem is, though, is they weren't able to advance that lead and get even further ahead to snowball the game really hard. They started falling behind in team fights, and once Nova's composition scaled with the items, with the levels, it wasn't hard for them to fight back and start winning those team fights.
Yeah, and we can see a couple of those team fights now as well. We've got one that was around 16 minutes into the game. This was the first ace that Nova managed to grab for themselves. This is where they really started to rock and roll in these fights.
Yeah, and you can see 11-9. Like, this has been so close up to this point. The turrets were even. It was such a very back and forth game, but finally they're able to get Starting Lover taken out of this fight. Status fell on the backside as well, and that was the key. With Status kind of got to this point where he was able to be targeted and focused down. Normally, that's not the case with a Samuel. Normally, Samuel is so incredibly durable that you can't just go straight after him. But this build from Status, it was a high-risk, high-reward type of build. If he's able to stay on the back lines, he can dish out a ton of damage.
Yeah.
But once this hard engage from the Black Feather and Alpha got onto him, he went down very quickly.
If you've got an Alpha and a Black Feather on you, you're not going to survive that onslaught for very long. We do have a moment where Hollywood Hammers did manage to hold on. They defended against the siege, but it was short-lived.
Yeah, I mean, this was when Nova were trying to push in with a Kraken, and they made a couple of mistakes because they overstepped, and what we're going to see here, Londelphi ends up dropping without using his ultimate. Before using his ultimate, he dies and goes into the infinite reboot right there. That's big because maybe he manages to use his ultimate, does damage to the crystal, to the Vein Crystal with it, maybe close out the game there, but that wasn't the case. Regardless, they were able to still win the game later.
Yeah, and credit to Starting over there, it was actually an active camo stun that prevented him from being able to use that ultimate. So it wasn't like he just didn't hit it. It was he got stunned up and was killed while he was still stunned. So great job by Hammers to recognize the opportunity to get his health low enough before he could pop that termination protocol.
Yeah, absolutely. Denying that opportunity from them. But if at first you don't succeed, try again. And Nova went in for another siege. This time, they were much more successful.
Yeah, and this one, it's again, they catch one of the 2 carries. That's their main focus. Status is doing what he can on the back line here, but again, unfortunately for him, just not able to have enough damage, and then just gets harassed by Hiko, just locking him into the wall, keeping him rooted, and just blocking out so much of the damage he's trying to do. They already know that they've won this game at this point, with Londelphi just going to work on the crystal. But Truth says, you know what, I want another kill. I want to get this ace. And they are able to finish that off in the 2v1 and close out the game.
And I gotta say, even though Black Feather was able to come back later on in the game and do quite a bit, especially when it comes to the damage output, this game was definitely the alpha show with the Londelphi, in my opinion. And the reason, I mean, if you're wondering why is Alpha such a strong pick now, all of a sudden, the reason to that is the fact that she got such drastic buffs across her entire kit in 2.9, combined with the Aftershock changes because of the health changes in 2.9. It just makes her such a greater pick all around. One thing definitely not to mention is that Delphi is actually an incredible alpha. He used to play it a long time ago. It was one of his one of his biggest comfort picks.
Yeah.
Now that she is meta again, he's starting to pick it back up, and we can definitely expect it to be a contested pick.
This is one of the things that I love to see when the meta comes full circle. You get to see the old classic picks come back into the hands of the comfort picks. It's like with Hundor and Baron. Best struck an A with Baron. Similar situation with Lundelphi and Alpha. We're into draft number 2. We'll see whether Hollywood Hammers can close the gap between them and Nova. It is a 1-0 lead in favor of Nova so far. It's going to be Catherine and finally a Black Feather Band coming on through.
And the Rhyme is going to get through, though, because of this. So it's another one of those situations we talked about all the time last season with, the Lyra and Grace. If you don't ban one of them, you're able to get one of those stronger picks. That's exactly what we see here. Hammers, they don't ban the Rhyme so that they can guarantee themselves either the Rhyme or the Black Feather with their first pick. Nova immediately answering with the Kestrel and taking the Lyra off the board.
Now, what I would like actually to see is the Kestrel being put in the jungle as a CP Kestrel to try and play against the Rhyme, because besides that, we haven't seen a very effective counter pick come out against the Rhyme and work. We've seen Krulls being played, Black Feathers being played, and none of them have been too successful. Rhyme was always still able to come out on top, so Kestrel CP perhaps is the choice to go for Lundelphi.
Man, it's definitely something that could work for him. It's a very strong pick, but it's going to have to wait and see, because with the Arden now being banned away, you wonder if Nova's going to prioritize a captain, because that pool is getting pinched so heavily, and it will be the Lance grab. So Hammers, obviously, now their captain pick is going to have to be a little bit lower on this totem pole. They do still have the Grace and the Finn available to them, so that they can have still a very strong captain, or they could go for something a little bit off meta.
I mean, Churn Walker would be perfect here just because of the fact you're going up against a Lance and a Kestrel, both of which can be locked down with those chains. Besides that, if you go for the Grace or the Finn, neither one of them works great for your composition as Hammers. Finn works really good with Rhyme, but it doesn't make sense for Hammers because of their playstyle. It's too immobile for them, and Grace has been nerfed. Instead, they decide to go with Fortress.
Another one that they need to tick off the list so that we see every hero in Vainglory this week's Vainglory8.
Grumpjaw, Gwen, and Taka, I think, are the only 3 heroes that have not been picked now thus far this week.
Yeah.
Not just this season, this week. This is absolutely incredible. And it will be the Adagio getting paired with it. So this is an interesting draft for the side of Hammers. Obviously, it's going to be a Rona coming through for Nova, just to make sure we don't go too meta with their composition. You got to have something in there that's a little bit of a shakeup.
So this could still be a weapon-powered Rona for Nova and a CP Kestrel. It's possible. For the side of Hollywood Hammers, though, that's a very strong composition with Adagio weapon power in the lane, playing on the back line of Rhyme and Fortress. A lot of aggressiveness that can come out from this composition early and mid-game, and a lot of burst damage.
All right, we'll see whether that burst damage is going to be enough for them to get a game. We are currently 1-0 up. How are we expecting the early game to go in this one? Who's going to be kicking things off?
I mean, you got to figure that they're going to try and be very aggressive with the side of Nova, because you have this Rona that can really excel and accelerate a game pretty quickly and get her builds going fast.
All right, well, we'll see if they can get that build rocking and rolling, and whether they can accelerate the game to the pace that they need to. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you think Hammers can come back into this one, or if it's a 2-0 to Nova. It's time to find out as we get onto the Halcyon Fold and pass it to Dowsy and the Source.
Alrighty, here we go. Round 2 of the Weapon Power Kestrel Wars on the Halcyon Fold. It's Truth's turn here, the Source, to take it away. Unfortunately for starting all over, he's down 1-0 in this Weapon Power Kestrel War that I have declared. So I have to see if Nova can continue their trend and take this series home 2-0.
Yeah, all Truth has to do is win one game and he wins the war. That's a pretty reasonable task to ask of him. With this composition, they have huge amounts of dive. This is a double weapon power composition. Chicken dives in.
Yeah, Truth taking a lot of damage. It is going to be Chicken diving in for more, starting all over, trying to get on in there with this weapon power Adagio. Lundelphi, lots of damage onto him. Chicken leading the charge, and Hollywood Hammers so aggressive. They want to steal away the entirety of the jungle here. We see that Truth has headed over towards the backs of Hollywood Hammers. Hollywood Hammers weren't able to secure that healing tree, and it did go over to Eco in the end. Currently, Status able to secure 1. Now just a bit of a dance. It is going to be 2 going over to Status. Truth able to secure a triumph for himself, but he walks into Starting All Over. Starting All Over wanting to take him down, but Lone Delphi's there with them, burning away, but it's first blood to Lone Delphi. And how will Nova now play is the question. Eco stops the backport of Chicken, but Status did make it home. This is very interesting right now because Truth and Lone Delphi are kind of trapped into just taking this middle treant whilst Chicken kind of leads Eco and walk in the park. It's just Eco walking his dog right now through the Halcyon Fold, you know, having a good time.
Well, Hollywood Hammers, they come out with a massive amount of aggression. It looked pretty good for them at the start, and then Nova just kind of managed to kite away. The jungle invasion gain isn't that high. They only managed to really take away the backs and that one middle treant. So all in all, Nova come out pretty much even here. They lose a little bit of gold because Adagio is up in the lane. He's farming a bit. He's getting the wave pushed up. Actually throws down the minion candy, so wants to get as much kind of value out of the siege, make things as difficult for Truth as possible.
Apparently it is just Hollywood Hammers doing their best to be very abusive with this Rhyme, evading continuously on towards Lone Delphi's Rona. It is going to be double weapon power coming out on the side of Nova, something to kind of bear in mind as it does influence the item purchases. You don't typically see Bonesaw or Tension Bow built as often now on 2.9. Unless it is double weapon power, then of course it's necessary. Oh, Lone Delphi, you cheeky bugger, able to steal away that Elder Treant for himself. And once more, Nova just kind of able to secure everything that Hollywood Hammers is trying to steal.
Yeah, item-wise, it also means that there's only really one damage source to deal with, so Nova have the potential of either going more damage or double stacking that armor, getting the Metal Jacket plus the Aptrus Pauldron. You know, there's just the potential there for them to feel, or yeah, for Hollywood Hammers to do that. I don't know why I said Nova. They've got plenty of mixed magic damage coming out from pretty much everywhere, even Starting All Over's got a little bit of it as well. So item-wise, as we see the game progress, I definitely feel that instead of Hollywood Hammers, they have an opportunity to vary up their items. They've got far more flexibility because there's only one damage type to deal with.
Let's see how Hollywood Hammers can kind of make that composition work for themselves. It is going to be Chicken leading the charge, and you have to feel that this fortress could be the demise of the Kestrel. Both these teams seemingly picking compositions that work into Kestrel. You're going to have a weapon power Kestrel wall, you might as well make it as difficult for the carry as possible. Status and Lone Delphi once more fighting over that Elder Treant, and it is Lone Delphi who secures it. Very surprising, actually, to see a Rhyme miss out on a Smite battle. In the lane, though, Truth in trouble. Pops here, healing Flask. Oh, the damage coming out of Starting All Over. There wasn't that little shield there. It would have been Truth dying, you feel. Hammer's putting on the pressure.
Yeah, they want to keep up the siege. They aren't really getting the oppressive jungle value they would have probably liked to get out of the Rhyme. Delphi's doing a very good job of securing these games and then harassing the jungle on the side of Hollywood Hammers. But this lane pressure is here. We definitely see, you know, at least in terms of how much health pressure is being put onto Truth, he's being forced under the tower. He's doing a very good job of farming while under this tower, is pretty much even with Starting All Over, despite the minion candy that was popping. Here's the dive. Githian wall.
What an incredible lance Eco is. In the last game, Eco set up so many different kills for his team. That is a beautiful Githian wall. You have to consider perhaps maybe even taking away Eco's lance. He is a monster on it.
It's always fun to see a really good lance because you're, you know, where you position, how you use that Githian wall, you set up plays, and then because your ultimate isn't really that much of a big team fighting ultimate, it really just facilitates how you're going to position throughout the team fight. And we've definitely seen Eco prove that he knows how to maneuver on that lance. Maybe he would be somebody else to possibly pick up the Churn Walker and see what he can do playmaking wise, because pretty much all of the fights we saw in the last game were very much off of what Eco could do playmaking, just in terms of playmaking. Truth and Lone Delphi would dive, but Eco would split up the team. He would section off an individual target, where he would protect them from what damage is coming in, if, you know, whether or not it is CCing a target or body blocking a blemisher.
Eco looking for the engage, misses the impale this time. At the moment, it is going to be just a standoff in the lane as Hollywood Hammers will make their way down to the shop. Starting All Over has so much gold in his inventory, likely to get that Sorrow Blade for himself, perhaps even a Blazing Salvo with that 700 gold, and there it is. And there's a Shatter Glass purchased as well for status, going to provide him a lot of fortified health when those Winter Spires hit.
Yeah, so we've got the initial damage spike. Chicken is the only one without his ultimate. As soon as that comes through for him, he's a little over halfway there. So we should definitely see that first attack of the pack. Just instantly find that hard engagement.
Currently, Hollywood Hammers in the lane, and Eco a little bit of pressure onto him. Truth coming back from his shop. He is going to start laying down some of the damages with the Glimmer Shots. Another Impale onto Starting All Over, but a great Valkyrie comes down. However, Truth takes down Chicken. Will they be able to find any more is the question, as Starting All Over putting down the damage. Eco survives. Truth going on to Starting All Over. Lone Delphi's there as well, and that's another kill going over to this Kestrel from Truth. He is a god on the weapon power Kestrel. So gifted at it. Nova with 2 kills.
Great counter engage from Hollywood Hammers, but a perfectly timed gauntlet takes away all of the value of all of that crowd control. The Valkyrie, the Verse of Judgment, none of that was really able to connect onto the members of Nova, and they walk away scot-free, pick up the 2 kills. They're now starting to extend a little bit of that gold lead. Maybe they'll feel confident that they can start to set up a siege, and Lone Delphi is really outputting the damage on this Rona.
A very interesting build that comes out whenever Truth is playing the weapon power Kestrel. He itemizes into double monocle, and then with that heavy steel goes into a breaking point. Had a bit of a chat with Belligerent, who is the analyst and coach for Nova. He says that, once that breaking point scales up, then it outdamages a Sorrow Blade. So you have to watch those breaking point stacks. If Truth wants to make that build effective, he has to land those Glimmer Shots, and you can see so far he's been very efficient at doing so. Great disengage coming out of Eco, keeping Truth alive and healthy from that engage attempt from Hollywood Hammers. Is going to be status making his way back down to the lane. They want to siege this turret, but so far Hollywood Hammers haven't been very successful doing so.
Yeah, and I feel like their advantage really isn't in sieging. Find those team fights in the jungle, get the attack of the pack going, get that, that movement speed, that engagement, get status into position. Doing that under a turret is always very, very dangerous. You're running the risk of really good Githian walls between that side wall and the turret, and we've seen that Eco, he can land those types of clutch plays for his team, and I believe that one actually went over to status. There's a bit of a duel here in the jungle.
Status was losing it in the lane. Truth will go down though. Starting All Over will be able to find that kill onto Truth. Does eventually fall. Another monocle has been purchased. It is Hammers trying to get this turret here as Lone Delphi going to dive onto the back line. Starting All Over, laying down the damage. Valkyrie comes down, but it's blocked up through Crucible from Eco. Lone Delphi in a bit of trouble as the Verse Judgment will come down. The turret was already secured. Hollywood Hammers will just leave with themselves a 300 gold advantage.
Yeah, and Eco's been very on point with these Crucibles. Pretty much Valkyrie hasn't gotten any real value. Neither does Verse of Judgment. Lone Delphi was very aggressive.
Lone Delphi, very aggressive. Chicken wants the kill. Spinning, generating fortified health. Status will move on in. Glimmer Shots raining down. Truth will dissuade Hollywood Hammers from engaging any further. That's an Atlas picked up now for Chicken, so you can dive onto Truth and Lone Delphi and just slow down their attack speed. However, Rona able to kind of just pop her ultimate whenever that Atlas does go down, and she's unaffected. We'll have to see how effective it is. Chicken may have to go towards more armor, as we saw Eco do in the previous game.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been a Metal Jacket just to deal with, the raw amounts of burst. But Chicken, has been looking for those dives. They still haven't been able to find, a good team fight on the side of Hollywood Hammers. Their siege is okay. I think if they had put more pressure, if they'd been able to find more pressure in the lane, they would have gotten that turret sooner. But they've got that turret. They can kind of maneuver, throughout the jungle and, the lane with some space. They don't have to worry about that position being there for Nova to fall back to it. And, item-wise, Truth, he's got the double monocle. His crits are there, but I think it's going to be a little while before he gets to that breaking point.
Okay, Nova. Now in a position. They want to try and contest Hammers pushing the lane. They're up in the side. Good positioning from Nova, because if Hollywood Hammers was to start a fight there, Eco would have Giffian more advantage, but Hollywood Hammers very clever not to even contest that idea. They just push onto the turret and get some damage down. Currently, going to be Eco missing an Impale, and being punished heavily for it. Hollywood Hammers continuing their threat as Truth trying to lay down the damage with those glimmer shots. Doesn't quite have that breaking point yet, and that's when his build really comes online. Something to keep on mind. He can go back and purchase it now. Now that the breaking point is there, the damage ramp up for Truth is quite surprising.
Yeah, I actually thought it'd be a little bit while longer before he picked that up, but once he get the core of his build going, so now these team fights get, very interesting. How well is Truth going to be able to set up his siege? How well is Eco going to be able to protect him against what is a very clean dive from the side of Hollywood Hammers? As soon as they pop the attack of the pack, they should be able to start putting the pressure on to Truth. But we've seen the last two team fights, every time they kind of get that, the momentum going, they don't manage to make it happen, and Truth is in a dangerous position.
Yeah, I don't think Hammers quite knew how dangerous it was. First Judgment will come down. It's going to be Eco stunned on up. Truth, he's just getting chunked down by starting all over on this Adagio, critting away. Truth able to get out alive for now. One shot comes through, but it is Status to find the kill into Lone Delphi. Now they make up their mind. Do they want Truth or do they want Eco? Chicken says Truth. Truth says uh-oh, and that will be him going down. Two Hollywood Hammers are going to turn their attention to Goldminer.
One auto attack apiece could have found him one of those kills, but good kiting from the side of Hollywood Hammers. They find their fight, managed to get their engagement in. I don't think he was going to go for that. Actually, maybe. Eco's been very willing to make these crazy plays for his team, so might have been a possibility. But good grouped up team fight, and finally the Valkyrie landed. It isolated Truth off. That was 2-3 seconds where he wasn't doing damage. He was pressured out of the fight. Chicken was able to chase him very, very far away. And despite Lone Delphi spinning on 3 targets with that red mist, it wasn't enough for him to either find a kill or keep himself alive. So Nova, they need to position a little bit better. Truth was kind of cut out of position. They didn't have any vision in that area, and maybe Eco will back up and pick up some scout traps. He does have some flares. Actually, no, finishes off his war tread, so just wants the mobility for them to be able to maneuver throughout the fight.
I really like that Chicken hasn't bothered going towards a contraption at this point, just stacking his inventory with those flares. And you can see that Status also has a set of 5 as well, so that he can really just keep eyes on Truth. It's far more efficient than going that contraption. Allows you to itemize a little bit more into what you need as a captain, as long as your jungler is on board to kind of make up the difference with the flare stack. Currently Hollywood Hammers have a single 1,500 gold lead, able to purchase them up a couple infusions. Could be really impactful. Status is able to refresh his. In fact, he has it in his inventory ready to go for refreshes. Chicken has it as well. I have to see how many members of Nova can afford an infuse, as Hollywood Hammers now want a team fight around this turret. It's only going to be Truth with their weapon power infusion.
Yeah, and Hollywood Hammer is starting to feel more confident in their dive as well as their siege. Starting all over is reaching that point where his damage is reasonably good into the turrets. Eco misses another impale, and all those skills have to go down. Valkyrie's there.
Yeah, it's going to be starting over, looking to get into position as Truth kites back. Good stun on Chicken. He is dead. Doesn't even use the fountain. That could be disastrous for Hollywood Hammers, but they're managing to chunk down Lone Delphi despite the fact that there is no fountain available for Hammers. Nova's used their fountain. Worth noting, it is fairly even for the two teams if you discount the fact that Chicken is dead. Here's currently everyone on Nova backing around. And it looks like Hollywood Hammers will disengage the fight. They got the turret, they don't really need a fight at this point, you don't think. Lone Delphi diving onto starting all over. Starting all over, doing a lot of crit damage. Lone Delphi gets deleted. Status remaining alive. It is a Valkyrie onto Truth, but he blocks it up. Truth, though, will lose his life to starting all over as Adagio. The ace comes through for Hollywood Hammers in a 2 versus 3.
Possible that the Kestrel is just a curse. They both seem very, very good at stopping the other player when they're both on that favorite hero. But a couple of things happened there. They didn't actually kill the wolves from the attack of the pack. So those ghosty wolves from Chicken actually stopped Lone Delphi from being able to heal up. There was still that mortal wound going on him. So that slowed down sort of that engagement when they were still in the jungle. Then the side of Nova, they feel more confident in that re-engage, and they just didn't get enough damage down. It got late enough into the team fight that Status already had the Valkyrie back up. Even though Truth blocks that out, that keeps him there for a short amount of time. He's not able to continue to step forward and finish off Status as quickly as he would have liked, and then starting all over wins the 1v1 duel.
Man, this is insane coming out so far in this series. How do you 2v3 like that without your captain? I do not know. Hollywood Hammers, beast mode right now. Moving in with the Kraken, looking for this game win to tie the series up 1-1. The choke point turret's been taken. It's only these Vein Crystal turrets left. A Rona and a Kestrel will make quick work of this Kraken, so Hollywood Hammers need to engage a fight. They want to be able to get both these turrets. That's starting all over. Rooted in a bit of trouble, managing to walk away. Found comes out. Valkyrie stuns up Lone Delphi, who is just getting chunked down by a starting all over. It is going to be Lone Delphi going very low. He in fact falls as Status is dealing with the turrets. Looks like Nova can't deal with this damage from Hammers. Status finds another. It's going to be the Vein Crystal turret focused down as starting all over looks for Nova. Truth burning away, gets shut down, and it's a series tied 1 apiece. No one is winning the weapon-powered Kestrel wars. Hollywood Hammers and Nova are taking it all the way here, Source. What an insane series so far.
It seems like the poke compositions are not working out in this series. Whichever team is able to just dictate the pace, have a solid engagement towards the mid to early game is winning these things out and just building significant advantage in items, significant advantage in map control, and we'll see who's going to take game number 3.
Incredible stuff so far. Compositions have been so diverse so far in 2.9. It's been absolutely beautiful to watch. I know some gentlemen who are eager to break it down, so let's hear from the analysts.
Thank you very much, guys. The double weapon power composition not working out in the end, and that means we are tied 1 apiece in this game. Hammers have managed to come back from the brink of defeat, and now we're going to go into a game 3. Gentlemen, talk to me a little bit about this game. I know, Zoro, you were very eager to talk about specifically the Kestrel and Fortress matchup.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Kestrel and Fortress matchup because we didn't get to talk about it too much in draft. Fortress is a great pick into Kestrel because of his wolves. When he uses those wolves in teamfights, it forces Kestrel to start running backwards, and especially with Kestrel's build, the consistent proc that's coming from the Fortress Wolves allows her or denies her being able to go invisible. I want to touch a little bit more on that. The build coming from Truth, the heavy steel into monocle, breaking point. You need total of 200 bonus weapon power to be able to go invisible at will because of how Kestrel's B ability works. That build doesn't give you enough weapon power, and although it does a lot better in damage and it scales better, that's one of its downsides, and it forced Truth to play a little bit on the back line and further away from his team to be safe.
So the build not really working in that scenario. We've got to get on into the replays. I know that this conversation wants to go on a little bit longer. We'll come back to it at the end. Let's take a look at our first replay. This was the good part of the game for Nova coming through.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it here. This was early on in the game, before everything had kicked off. Nova being able to pick up 2 kills after killing the Fortress, managing to take 2 kills, and then later on starting all over. And this was way before Hollywood Hammers composition was able to do a lot because Fortress wasn't being able to get in there.
It was also, this was before armor was being built. And this double weapon composition, this is the thing I wanted to talk about with it, was they went for this double weapon composition but had no Pierce on the team. There was no tension bow, no bone saw. And obviously, Rona and Kestrel, not the greatest for trying to build a bone saw because it does rely on the basic attacks. Kestrel, I think there's room somewhere in that build for a bone saw, but not. It's still not ideal on a Kestrel. And Rona barely applies bone saw stacks because she's going to be spending most of her time in a red mist. So the fact that they went for the double weapon without having room for a bone saw or some way to shred armor ended up being a downfall because we saw once the armor started coming out, Hammers were able to win these fights. Yeah,
once the teams have enough gold to go into those defensive items, it becomes very difficult. Let's take a look at our next replay. This was when Hammers had managed to get control of the game themselves, and this was a double kill that they got towards the start.
Yeah, and you can see the Atlas Pauldron having a pretty massive effect once Chicken actually used it in this fight, and they're able to just kite around and chase Truth away. And all of a sudden now it becomes a little bit of a 3-on-2. Truth does go, stays alive for a very long time, but it's because he wasn't involved in the fight once they had forced him out with that Fortress.
Yeah, I mean, that was a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He had to run too far too far away from his team to be able to stay safe because he can't go invisible at will when he's being damaged. On top of that, the Fortress Wolves blocking his damage, it allowed Hollywood Hammers to just focus the front line, and then Kestrel's damage wasn't coming back, so it's easy to win the team fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a mere minute later on into the game, the double kill was clearly not enough for the Hammers because they went for an ace this next time around. Talk me through this fight, Bacon.
Now, this was, again, one of those situations where the armor has been built up, their damage just wasn't enough. It's still a lot of damage, but they just don't quite dish it out, and starting all over on a sliver of health, manages to stay alive and get the ace. All of a sudden, he's regenning. They're able to take the objectives, start pushing those turrets even more, and like I said, it's just the lack of Pierce really ended up hurting the side of Nova a bit too much.
Yeah, we can take a look at the final fight of the game as well, where Hammers turned the advantage that they managed to get into a victory.
And this was 16.5 minutes into the game, with the Kraken being full health when he's entering the base of Nova. So it's really hard for them to make a decision in between deciding to fight Hollywood Hammers or go for the Kraken. They end up being split in between, and even though they take the team fight in the end, they don't really win it. Rona falls down while Rhyme is also focusing the objectives, just trying to finish the game. He's like, you guys fight over there, I'm just going to finish the game. It doesn't really matter.
That's the thing. They kind of lost the team fight while they were 2v3 on their own fountain. So it's, when you're in that kind of situation, let's bear in mind, it was like, what, 3k difference in gold at that stage. You know that there's a significant issue compositionally, I think, at that point, when the gold is not that different and you're losing that handedly in a fight. You've got some issue somewhere along the line. What do we expect to see coming into this next game then? Do we need to see big changes coming in for Nova? Because honestly, that was not a convincing performance.
You do need to see big changes, but at the same time, like, it's just one of those outliers for Nova. This is one of the problems that this team has with trying to become one of these top teams, is they'll have games like that where it's just, you look at it and just like, why did they do this?
Nothing seems to
it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And then they'll come back the next game and they'll destroy their opponents. So they're, with Nova, it's that inconsistency in the draft and in their execution that just gives you cause for concern when trying to pick them as one of your favorites.
I mean, if they do go for the double weapon power again, I would actually like to see the Kestrel build the Bonsaw. It actually works really well on her, not only because she constantly is auto-attacking every time she uses a Glimmer Shot, but the Glimmer Shot actually applies a Bonsaw stack every time she hits a target with it. So it's an item that works for her because she can shred item or targets with it fairly fast. The Arden first pick into the Lyra.
I have to say, Crawl has really not been a focus for either of these teams during this series. It's one of the picks that has been first pick, first ban in a few of the other series, but when it comes to Nova and Hammers, it's clearly not something that they're willing to prioritize.
Yeah, it's not really the style for Status especially. He likes to be on much more aggressive type of heroes. The Kroll can be aggressive, but it's most often used as like that utility type jungler. Doesn't really fit his style. And Lone Delphi, while it does fit his playstyle a little bit more, it's still just something like Nova of recently has been wanting to have more impact, more direct damage impact in their jungler. So Kroll does get banned here this time around, largely because of the pedal ban, because historically a pedal ban means that a team wants to go for the Kroll. So I think that's actually really smart by Hammers, and maybe almost baited out that ban.
This should allow Reza to come through. There aren't any counter picks left. Rhyme, Cruel, even Pedal are off
Koshka and Alpha are still there, though.
Koshka is there, but I still would take Reza over, especially since you're playing into a Lyra who doesn't have a lot of early game pressure, especially combined with the Adagio weapon power. Nova could seriously go for it. On the other hand, like you said, though, the Alpha has been shown as a very strong pick. However, the Kestrel pick I want to touch on very briefly. It's one of Starting's best heroes, so no matter the case, the fact that they have Starting on Kestrel, he can pull plays and make things happen in situations you wouldn't expect.
It seems like whatever he's playing, that can be the case with Starting all over. He is that kind of highlight player. We'll see whether there's anything he can pull out in this situation. Let's remember, this is going into game number 3. A lot of points on the line right here. There is 3 points for the next game victory here, and it is going to be the Reza locked in for Nova.
And now you have to wonder, is this going to be a double crystal comp, or will it be the weapon Adagio in the lane for Truth? And Hammers, I really feel like they can just grab either the Koshka or the Alpha and just really punish this Reza early on, because the Adagio isn't going to be able to offer up too much in the form of assistance in this early game either. So they could really just let Status go have a field day in Lone Delphi's jungle.
See if he's going to be able to do exactly that. Obviously, later on we will see this even up with the Reza, but Alpha coming on through. So, two junglers, both heavily reliant on that Aftershock, both coming into the meta because of that Aftershock. We'll see how this matchup is going to pan out. Obviously, Adagio going up into the lane as well. So, some intriguing picks coming on through, and I'm curious to see how this one will play out. Now, with this Alpha versus Reza matchup, how do we expect the jungle to go?
I mean, it's going to be fairly even until 6 hits for Alpha, because then she can play really aggressively. Reza can outduel her before that, so if Status is feeling very confident he can play aggressive, Adagio can also help because he has a very strong matchup. He can apply a lot of pressure, especially since starting is playing really well on him last game.
All right, what are we expecting over elsewhere on the map then, especially looking towards this lane? The duel of the laners, is there a significant advantage?
It's going to depend heavily on if this is a crystal or a weapon Adagio. And so it's really tough to predict because of the fact that we don't necessarily know which build path Truth is going to be going for.
Right, we'll see what he does end up going for in the end. It's time to get on into the game. It's time to find out who will be joining Team Solo Mid in the finals. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know on Twitter who you want to win. It's time to pass it over once again to Dowsy and the Source.
It's game 3 of this nail-biting, adrenaline-pumping series. Nova and Hammers, all tied up one apiece. Starting all over, continuing the weapon power Kestrel war here, wanting to get a win over it. Lone Delphi, though, on this Reza, going to be looking to try and assassinate him. And I know Lone Delphi has been putting a lot of time and effort into this Reza pick, so very excited to see him on it, see what he can do here. Currently a fight breaking out. Level 1 shenanigans. No one has level 2, and starting all over is going very low, but Lone Delphi's all by himself. Starting all over will fall. It's first blood going over to Eco, and now Status is looking for a return kill. Delphi will go down. It's all in at this level 1 fight, as Status is looking for 2 here. Chicken slowing everyone up. It's a double kill for Chicken. He's just making everything happen on this Lyra, and Hammer's going to walk away 2-1.
You just took a level 1 team fight into an Alpha and a Lyra. Nova have got some serious confidence in their ability to just win things out, but it turns on its head. Hollywood Hammers will walk away with the 2 free kills. They'll take the middle treant. They'll gain themselves a little bit of an initial gold lead, and that's a great start for them, especially considering how much pressure the Status is going to want to put on into the jungle and keep Lone Delphi down and stop him from reaching his Aftershock before he does.
Man, what an incredible start to a third matchup of just a series that's been so bloodthirsty. These teams, after each other's hearts, won't rest until the other is laying on the floor, lifeless. Currently, Nova with this Adagio, very likely to be a weapon power Adagio. As you can see, the blades in Truth's inventory seem to do alright into the Kestrel of the previous game. If you look into the jungle, this Alpha into Reza is a very interesting matchup. Alpha, fairly typically really good into Reza. Reza struggles to out-duel an Alpha 1v1, especially when you add a Lyra to the mix, it can be very difficult. So Lone Delphi, I think he's got a hard task set ahead of him if he wants to try and snowball a lead over Status.
It's going to come down to how much pressure they put on the weapon power Kestrel, which has kind of been it's been the focal point for both teams in the last 2 games as to who can we take out most easily, and who do we take out to guarantee we're going to have advantage going through the rest of the team fight. So if Lone Delphi puts constant pressure on starting, they'll overburst through Chicken's healing, or is even able to bait some of that, and he's already starting it off.
Oh wow, look at this, starting all over, in a bit of trouble. Lone Delphi though, not quite able to find the assassination on this Reza just yet, but does force starting back to base, and it is going to be the wave pushed in via Truth. Chicken going to do his best to catch it, but it is just going to crash on into the turret, so a bit of CS going to be missing. However, Status wants to start a fight. Look at this damage though coming out of Lone Delphi. Able to really just burst down Status, and that bright ball just about keeps him alive.
Yeah, unfortunately there wasn't a treant there for them to steal. They would have liked to have been able to pressure in, take away some of that jungle, but now they will get the middle treant. They'll be able to step back in there. Now Lone Delphi, he's looking for the steal, looking to put pressure on the Status. Did he steal that one away? He did.
Yeah, he wants to go further now. There is that reboot protocol for Status to keep in mind. And look at that, Chicken interfering in this 1v1. Lone Delphi takes Scout Trap damage. He is in a world of hurt. Has those Troublemakers, though, off cooldown to get out alive, and that will be him surviving for the most part. Starting over solo in lane has pushed Eco out, going to have to roam away if he wants to heal on up. So that leaves Truth vulnerable under the turret, starting a lot of free damage onto that turret as well.
Yeah. Item-wise, Reza's now backed. He's got... No, he hasn't backed. That was Eco who was backed. So Eco, a little bit closer to that fountain. Lone Delphi still needs a little bit more gold before that Aftershock. I think got close. He'll have a little bit more damage, definitely, for sure. Yeah, he's going to pick up those 2 Crystal Power items and get himself some of that initial burst that he's going to need. He almost killed Starting All Over. He almost killed Status, so he's close to being able to finish off some of these key targets, but you always have to be worried about Chicken's healing coming in, and I think it'll be a little while before Truth is online enough to really help him finish the job.
In a spot now where Status has finished off his alternating current. Lone Delphi opting in to pick up a heavy prism. Alternating current, that would be a strange item for Alpha. I didn't mean Aftershock. Forgive me, Twitch chat. Overlords. Look at that, Hollywood Hammers just take the turret very quickly. Lone Delphi, because he opted in to buy a heavy prism, which is, you know, a fairly standard thing when you play Koshka, you go for that heavy prism, has meant that he has delayed that that Aftershock quite significantly for himself. He's going to have to farm a couple more rotations of the backs, and if he's sharing gold with Truth as well, it is going to mean that it's not going to be there as quickly.
It also makes the next engagement a little dangerous. Now, if they can get Eco towards his gauntlet a little bit sooner, he's a little bit further away from that. They have that. They will have that before the Arcane Passive Chicken, so they don't have to worry about getting, you know, just instantly jumped on in the jungle. You know, those odd angle engagements. Maybe they can find a window where that ultimate isn't in there for the captain of the side of Hollywood Hammers, or maybe they decide they're going to fight here.
Wow, Status just goes immediately in. It's going to be Never Form Detonator, but a Bright Bulwark shutting it down. Eco in a lot of trouble. Starting all over though, losing his life. It's a single kill for Truth. And it's going to be Lone Delphi turning onto Status. Has already popped his passive. Lone Delphi charging on forward, waiting for that Scorcher to come offline so he can burst Status down. It just isn't there yet. Doesn't have the cooldown reduction from that Aftershock just yet, but it is a kill going over to Nova. Now Truth pushing down the turret.
Ooh. Lone Delphi also almost got hit by that one-shot, one-kill. Managed to steal away the healing off that tree end, so it was definitely a dangerous moment for him. The rest of the team of Nova should back away from this. They pretty much got what they wanted out of that team fight. Lone Delphi has his Aftershock now, so he's pretty much caught up to Status, and now they can, you know, feel more comfortable in taking those harder engagements.
Do wonder where Lone Delphi takes that Reza next. There is a trend in North America to go Dragon's Eye after you get the Aftershock for yourself, so you can stack up a lot of CP. I know that Lone Delphi has been paying attention to the more European build path, which would be a Broken Myth second, so that you can just cut through any shielding that gets picked up early. It would be very interesting to see which item path Lone Delphi decides to itemize into. Is maxing his B, which you may wonder why. The cooldown reduction when you max Troublemaker the B on Reza, it's quite significant. You get those charges back off cooldown 2 seconds quicker, and once you get, you know, if you're able to build a clockwork into the build, it is a crazy cooldown though. Wow, Bright Bulwark shuts Lone Delphi down. That's going to be a fountain used. Gauntlet laid down. Chicken's in at Status as well. Truth trying to escape as Lone Delphi tries to get onto this Alpha. There's the Termination Protocol. Status just getting bursted and deleted whilst rebooting. Eco may lose his life to starting all over, and now it's a 2 versus 2. Lone Delphi has to run from starting all over, tanking up so much damage. Great portal. Puts Truth in Starting's fire, but starting all over, does he have the damage to deal with Truth? Of course he does. He's burning away, but he should be fine. One shot comes through. Lone Delphi trying to find Chicken, has the help of the Crystal Sentry. They will be able to find the kill as well. A 2 for 2 in the end. Lone Delphi now looking for starting all over. Starting all over looks like he shall get the backport off. Just about escapes Lone Delphi.
Kind of a chaotic team fight. There was really two stages to that. You've got the beginning stage where it looks very much like the side of Hollywood Hammers have kind of shut down Lone Delphi. They haven't given him the opportunity to put out the pressure. And then the chase gets very, very deep as Status goes a little bit too far with the Prime Directive and can't really get away. The gauntlet was still down, and that delayed the rest of the rotation from Hollywood Hammers. So Nova, they will get out of that one by the skin of their teeth. I think I agree with you on the Reza build, maxing the B. You've more than one way to apply that passive, but you've only really got one dash. Also, the dash burst damage you get off of getting the Firestarter passive onto targets, you can get that off the Netherform detonation, but you can also get it off the Scorcher. So just having more dashes up, I think overall cranks out a much higher damage output. And now Eco looking to put pressure on starting all over. The rest of the team will be rotating in. Gauntlet should be coming through soon.
Yeah, Lone Delphi now looking to try and get on top of starting all over. Oh my goodness, the damage is insane. Lone Delphi, he's been practicing this Reza and he's making it look like a shining star. Here comes a burst of the Verse of Judgment. Status put into his passive, and when you focus him down with a Reza, it's just too easy to pop the alpha when in that reboot process. Nova currently just dealing with the alpha so perfectly. They're going to be able to reward themselves with a gold miner.
Yep, that's going to give them decent amount of power spike. Also, Lone Delphi, he did pop an infusion going into that first fight that we saw. So he was cranking out a little bit more damage than normal. That was, ended up being a good gold investment for them. We'll see where he goes with this build. Is that going to be? It is the Broken Myth. I think you have convinced him of the European Reza build. And he will now be outputting mass amounts of damage. There still is no shielding for starting all over, but that's going to help him do a little bit more damage to Chicken. Status doesn't have any either. So, at least he has it now so that when that shield does come in, he won't have to worry about it and he can start focusing on other portions of his build.
The thing is, once everyone hits level 12 and Status and starting all over are close to it, you're going to have 50 shielding, 60 shielding roughly each. And that's when Broken Myth is effective. When you chuck any more shielding on top of that, the Broken Myth is only going to become even more effective. Starting all over looks like he may be itemizing towards armor rather than shielding. Lone Delphi is not going to really care about that. Evil Harvest would be the next item in the build. Perhaps he goes towards a Dragon's Eye if he really feels he needs to stack. It all depends on whether or not the sustain is important. This Reza build is all about sustaining in team fights and kind of playing Reza as a assassination type hero. When you max your A, you get the extra range, but that's not what Reza is about. If you wanted poke, then play CP Blackfeather or Scarf. They have fantastic poking abilities. Reza's CP ratios on Scorcher, not so high. And so what Lone Delphi is wanting to do is get messy with the Reza, get in there and try and be as dirty as possible on the back line. Currently so far, starting all over has been feeling the pain of it.
Yeah, and I mean, the entire team of Nova, they feel pretty comfortable in these scrappy engagements. They don't have to be sort of the hard initial engagement. They can kind of throw down one skill, get a couple of abilities out, and then follow it up. And Status steps forward, gets punished, goes back in.
Status stunned up in the gauntlet, and he is done so. Will not get a reboot. What a fantastic gauntlet coming through from Eco. Great Glimmer Shot will trap up Lone Delphi in that active camera, but starting all over now has to be a little bit careful because Lone Delphi wants to go in. Netherform Detonator goes on in, starting all over. Goodbye, my friend. Will fall down to this Reza. Such a great pick into the Kestrel, just able to chase her down, especially when you max that B. You just have so many gap closing abilities to catch back up with the Kestrel, who in that weapon power format, very slippery with the active camo, but Lone Delphi so far so good in making sure that he deals with it.
Yeah, and Status is really being shut down. Either he goes too far in and they're able to punish him, or they're just kiting him very, very well. That gauntlet was perfect. It landed on him right before he was probably looking to activate the termination protocol. You saw how low he was getting, and they just instantly stun him up, get the easy kill. And now Truth's got double tornado trigger, has that Sorrow Blade, that crit damage is there, that attack speed is there. So, the entire side of Nova is pretty much where they want to be item-wise. They can engage at their leisure, they can take an extended team fight, they can take a quick engagement. And meanwhile, the side of Hollywood Hammers, they're still looking for what target to really go on. Status has been diving deep onto Truth, but that's kind of a dangerous proposition. Verse of Judgment is always there to stun you out, and I'd say Eco's doing an amazing job of just protecting Truth over the course of this series.
Yeah, now that everyone is starting to consider this Reza damage. I say that Status has got double armor. This is very peculiar. This alpha itemization is meaning that Status is not really having a very much ability to tank up the Reza damage, perhaps maybe underestimating what Lone Delphi is outputting. We have hit level 12. Everyone, the two carries have both, you know, 50 and 60 shielding apiece, I believe. Broken Myth is fully efficient at this point. If Stunning Aloba is to finish that Aegis, which he has the reflex block for, and Lone Delphi is not going to even care about it. Currently looking for a Eve of Harvest for the sustain, has that energy battery in his inventory. Truth at this point is just so far ahead. Double TT and a Monic Pool with the Sorrow Blade. He is doing so much crit damage. Eco lays down the gauntlet. Lone Delphi on the backline, starting Aloba. He is popped in the middle of the fight, and it's going to be Status into a gauntlet war, popped as well. It's going to be him falling, cannot survive. Lone Delphi finds his 4th kill. It's only Chicken left standing. Currently Nova just making hammers look like mincemeat.
Yeah, and it's just the pace of the engagements coming out from Nova. Every time, you know, Starting Aloba wants to set up, he got a decent amount of poke in there. Truth had taken some damage, Lone Delphi had taken some damage, but they just instantly are able to jump on him, and this Reza is really ripping apart this weapon power Kestrel, and it feels that there just nowadays are too many ways for you to get on top of a weapon power Kestrel and just put significant pressure to the point where either the item build is coming out too slowly, or it doesn't even matter that weapon power Kestrel is kind of online with that 3 damage item spike. Like, Starting Aloba does good damage, he just doesn't survive long enough to actually dish it out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the main issue that he's facing, is that Status is not really able to dissuade Lone Delphi's damage. I think perhaps they need to turn on to Lone Delphi, but when you do so, does Truth just get free reign? That's the problem, that's the issue with Chicken on Lyra, not really outputting enough healing for the team. Just doesn't seem to be working, and mind you, there's no Poison Shiv on Truth. This is just pure damage. That's huge glimmer shots though onto Truth. Eco able to tank up that one shot. I think Hammer's just burst his Kraken now. Really invite the side of Nova to contest this. We did see Justman still a Kraken with the blood for blood. Kraken now takes 20% less damage to take, but a great Bright Bulwark will prevent Eco from doing anything there. Kraken unleashed by Hollywood Hammers. Is this the turning point?
They're looking for the opportunity. Now this might give them a little bit of time to build up some more defensive items, get what they need. We're starting all over. Oh my god, he was so close to being engaged on. Now gets the turn back damage onto Eco, but maybe a little bit, you know, a little bit faster of a trigger pull, and that's a dead Kestrel, and the entire push is over.
Truth spotted backporting. Gets himself a weapon power infusion. Starting Aloba now laying down 500 damage per crit. Look at that gauntlet, trapping up 2, Starting Aloba able to escape, but Lone Delphi's on the backline. Starting Aloba struggling, Neverform detonated, cuts him off. He has to run back towards Truth, and Truth will find the crit. It's now Status's turn to go down, and they pop him into his passive. Double kill for Truth. Incredible from Nova to just be able to execute so perfectly in those team fights, and Hollywood Hammer's not able to kite. It is going to be the Kraken finding that choke point turret. It seems they can't really stop it. Reza's downfall, you could say, would be the objective control on Kraken. Really useless at taking it.
Yeah, doesn't do a huge amount of damage on that. Maybe if you go with a Storm Crown, you can kind of get away with that, but that, you know, that doesn't really fit into this build. It doesn't really offer you anything major in these team fights, and Lone Delphi is still getting more powerful. Has now finished the Eve of Harvest. Does he even need an extra defensive item? Does he need to go into something with some shield, or does he just pick up more damage and, you know, help them kind of close out these kills? Because we see, you know, 1 or 2 combos off of the Troublemaker that pretty much drops Starling Aloba to about half health on his own. Lands the Netherform detonation, gets up 1 or 2 more combos. It's about, you know, maybe 3-4 seconds that you need to be able to actually take Starting Aloba's health bar out of the equation, and Truth isn't even there to do damage. Imagine if Truth is actually in position, you know, to make, you know, add in some of that additional damage.
Oh, no.
Starting Aloba.
Starting Aloba. gets engaged upon Truth, though struggling to escape. Walks into the gauntlet wall. Status is trapped inside it. It is Lone Delphi trying to deal with, starting all over. Status able to just take down Truth. This could be Nova losing a team fight here as Lone Delphi dives into a camo. Starting all over with another kill. Looking for Eco. They've done it. Hollywood Hammers, they will find the ace. 2 kills for Status, 1 for starting all over. And that might just be the game after a dominating series from Nova. Dominating team fights the entire time along. Hollywood Hammers, 1 Kraken, 1 team fight win. They're challenging it all. This Vayne Crystal turret will fall. The second one's going to go very low. It is 5 seconds on Truth, 9 on Lone Delphi. Can Truth do anything is the question. I don't think he can. Vayne Crystal dropping low. And in the game, the series will go to Hammers.
The war is won by starting all over. Where was that Kestrel play all game? Where was that Kestrel play game 1? How did he manage to finally start to get in the rhythm of kiting in and out of the bush, of getting off of those active camos? That was exactly what Hollywood Hammers needed to be able to take the game. And Lone Delphi, he got so close to killing, starting all over 2, maybe 3 times. Chicken was able to keep him healed up, and Nova will fall with a game that looked like it was all in their hands.
Incredible turnaround from Hollywood Hammers, who win the Weapon Power Kestrel War against Nova. Starting all over, will crown himself king of Kestrel. It just looked like it was a Nova game the whole way through. I am starstruck, so let's throw it over to the desk to break down that series.
Definitely an incredibly surprising result coming on through there. It looked like Nova had that one in a nutshell, but Hammers come through once we got to the later stages of the game. They managed to grab the Kraken, they managed to grab the last couple of fights, and more importantly, they managed to grab the series 2-1 over Nova. Kind of a heartbreaking defeat for any Nova fans out there.
Yeah, that's got to be rough. I mean, you feel like you have the game taken care of, all but wrapped up, and then you lose one massive team fight